Burton K. Wheeler, 1882 to 1975, November 1920 through November 1922. After defying Montana's powerful giant, Anaconda Copper Mining Company, as Montana state legislator, and after opposing human rights violations committed during post-war Red Scare, Wheeler is badly defeated in 1920 run for governor, but in 1922 elected as Democrat to U.S. Senate for the first of four terms with a strong backing of farmers and labor. Over the years, converts Montana state government into bipartisan Wheeler machine. February through November 1924, chosen to head Senate inquiry into Teapot Dome graft scandal, which leads to the resignation of President Coolidge as Attorney General, Harry M. Doherty, and humiliation of Coolidge's Justice Department, abandons Democrats and Democratic ticket headed by John W. Davis to run for vice president on Progressive Party ticket with Wisconsin Senator Robert M. Lafayette. Coolidge overwhelmingly defeats both Democrats and Progressives, the latter party polls 6 million votes nationwide and nearly 40% of vote in Montana. 1932 to 1937. Prior to the Democratic Convention in 1932, visits 16 states to promote Roosevelt nomination, despite being first national figure to endorse Democratic candidate, and, by and large, sympathetic to New Deal social reform. In 1937, Wheeler bitterly opposes the president over his legislative proposal to enlarge the Supreme Court and pack it with New Deal supporters. Wheeler's leadership leads to controversial bill's defeat, and aggravates personal enmity between him and the president. 1938, Wheeler's Montana machine works to undermine his Democratic rival, Congressman Jerry O'Connell, aiding election to the House of Jacob Thorkelton, a right-wing Republican labeled by Walter Winchell the mouthpiece of the Nazi movement in Congress. Thorkelton calls Winchell a Jewish vilifier and files suit against him after Winchell includes Thorkelson in Liberty Magazine's series of articles called Americans We Can Do Without. Congressman O'Connell, commenting on electoral activities of Wheeler Democrats, describes Wheeler as a Benedict Arnold to his party and a traitor to his president. 1940 through 1941. Wheeler for President Club, formed in Montana by influential Democrats in his home state and elsewhere, considered a formidable contender for Democratic nomination until Roosevelt announces his candidacy for a third term in Senate. Wheeler increasingly aligned with Republicans and Southern Democrats against liberal Roosevelt wing of the Democratic Party. Vociferously opposes American intervention in European war. In June 1940, threatens to bolt Democratic Party if it is going to be a war party. Meets that month to make plans for countering war agitation and propaganda with Charles A. Lindbergh and a group of isolationist senators on Senate floor. Defends Lindbergh against accusations of being pro-Nazi, and some months later, after Roosevelt publicly compares Lindbergh to a Civil War copperhead, a northerner who sympathized with the South, calls the remark shocking and appalling to every right-thinking American. Speaking over NBC radio network, proposes an 8-point peace proposal for negotiating with Hitler and receives a congratulatory telegram from Lindbergh. Meets with Yale students planning to organize America First Committee and assumes role of unofficial advisor. Along with Lindbergh, becomes most popular speaker at AFC rallies. Speaks out against draft, calling Roosevelt's peacetime conscription proposal a step toward totalitarianism. On Senate floor, arguing against Lend-Lease bill, says, if the American people want a dictatorship, if they want a totalitarian form of government, and if they want war, this bill should be steamrolled through Congress, as is the wont of President Roosevelt. Claims Lend-Lease, if passed, will plow under every fourth American boy, prompting Roosevelt to label Wheeler's remark the most untruthful, most dastardly unpatriotic thing that has been said in public life in my generation. Publicly and prematurely reveals that U.S. is sending troops to Iceland. White House, along with Prime Minister Churchill, accuses Wheeler of endangering American and British lives. Again, charged with compromising military security when in November 1941, he leaks to isolationist Chicago Tribune a classified War Department document disclosing U.S. strategy in the event of war. December 1941 through December 1946. Following Pearl Harbor, supports war effort, arguing, however, that America's alliance with Soviet Union aids survival of communist government. In 1944, claiming communists are behind MVA, sides against liberals with the Montana Power Company and Anaconda Copper Company in helping defeat Missouri Valley counterpart, the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, subsequently loses last of Montana Democratic support and is defeated in 1946 Senate primary campaign by young Montana liberal Leif Erikson. 1950s, practices law in Washington, D.C., allies himself ideologically and politically with Senator Joseph McCarthy.